Hello guys, today we're going to go over the introduction to statistics, pretty much the introduction to chapter 1. It goes over the science and art of data. It's a pretty short class, pretty much giving an introduction to the theory about what to expect. And pretty much the target for today's class is to have you be, at the end, being able to identify individuals within a data set and also variables within a data set. Also, to be able to quickly classify variables into both categorical and quantitative type variables. Now, first of all, let's go over the definition of statistics. Statistics is pretty much the science and art of collecting, analyzing, and drawing conclusions from data. Now, even though this is in the book, data is raw and unprocessed facts and figures. Information is what happens when you analyze the data, and when you apply or share that information, it becomes knowledge. So again, in statistics, we collect, we analyze, and we draw conclusions from that data. Now, pretty much, how do we organize data? One of the most common tools in statistics are pretty much tables. And we assign variables to the columns, and usually each individual is described per row. Now sometimes this changes, but that's pretty much standard. Like say for example, in page 43, we can see that there's a census. And censuses are pretty much very simple and standard data collecting tools. We have different columns: household, we have region, we have number of peoples, time and dwelling, like how many years have you lived there, response mode, household income, internet access. You have multiple columns. Then when you survey each individual, you start populating those columns or those variables with the data that it should be put there. For example, household number 425, region Midwest, number of people 5. How many years have you lived there? Between 2 and 4. So you start populating the rows with the variables that correspond to that individual. Now, as far as definitions go, actual definitions, an individual is an object described in a set of data. Individuals can be people, trees, pages, just pretty much anything. A collection of or pretty much an object described in a set of data. That's an individual. And a variable is an attribute that can take different values for different individuals. Now, in algebra and geometry, normally we see variables as a number that changes, even though that still kind of holds true. The better way, I believe, to see a variable in statistics is like a small box that can contain something that describes the individual. For example, variable gender. Gender is not a number, so it's better to just don't think of a variable in a pre-calc or algebra way. Think of it in statistics like a box that can hold a descriptor or a value that helps us describe the individual. Now, when we move on, let's go over the difference between categorical and quantitative variables. Categorical, we call a categorical variable pretty much a variable that assigns a label that places the individual in a particular group or category. Gender, male, female, other. A class, AP Calc, stats, Super Calc. Also sort of descriptors. They don't have to be hard categories like tall, short. These also qualify, but it's better when it's clear cut. The groups are clear cut. For example, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Star Trek movies. 10A, 10B, 10C, 11th grade, 10th grade. These are all categorical values. They're not assigned like a number per se. They place you in a particular category. Nationality, Dominican, race, gender, sex, religion, social income status, everything that places you in a group, categorical, pretty easy to recognize. And quantitative, now there's a trick here, because the actual definition is takes number values that are quantities, counts, or measurements. Now, not every number is a quantitative variable. For example, the example they use in the book, zip code. Zip code is a number, but that number in itself does not represent anything, doesn't represent a value or measurement. It's just a number. Like, for example, your social security number. It's a number, but that number doesn't mean anything. So that does not qualify as quantitative data. Quantitative data could be height, however many centimeters, body temperature, weight, length, height, width. So something that measures or counts. Okay. So again, not every time you see a number, it's quantitative. You have to really analyze what you're seeing and then just decide what it is. Pretty much, we can see, for example, in a census, if you look at page 44, there's a census that was created, and pretty much it tasks you into describing the individuals, and also if the information you're looking at is quantitative or categorical. Let's go over a couple of examples. Province, that's a location. Categorical, you're from here, you're from there, you're from out of the country. Gender, categorical, male, female. Handness, you write with your left hand or right hand, that's categorical. Height, centimeters, that's a measurement, quantitative. Wrist circumference, quantitative, they're measuring. Preferred communication, that's categorical. Would you rather communicate in person, via video, online, email, etc., etc. So again, pretty much that's it. That's the basic or the most important things about the introduction to chapter 1. Recognizing an individual, recognizing what variables describe this individual within my data set, categorical versus quantitative. Know that normally the variables are the columns and the individuals are the rows. And one last definition that we have at the very end is distribution. The distribution of a variable tells us what values the variable takes and how often it takes those values. So pretty much, are they clumped up somewhere? Are they distributed randomly? Are they evenly distributed? We saw standard deviation. Is this a normal distribution? Is this a bimodal distribution? Is the distribution skewed to the left or to the right? So pretty much just know that distribution tells us what values the variables can take and how frequent those values are. That's it for today. The following class is going to be 1.1 proper, which is the analysis of categorical data. Take care, guys.